This podcast is a production of Widener Law Commonwealth in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. For more information, visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu/podcast. Now here's your host, Julie Sheldon.
Welcome to Widener Law Commonwealth's podcast. Today we are talking with Eden Mandrell. She is the director of our Career Development Office. Eden, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. We're going to talk a little bit about internships and externships. This is kind of part 3 in some additional podcasts that we have done for Widener Law Commonwealth. So, Eden, what is the difference between an externship and an internship?
That's a good question. I think the way that we use those terms.
Within the lawyering world, the law school world?
I think it's our law school world.
Okay.
Because every law school refers to them differently.
Okay.
So the way that Widener uses them is that internships are practical legal experience, and the students are getting paid for those, the internships. Externships are done through the school, and you get credit for them, and you also have to take an externship class.
Okay.
And so you get practical experience doing both the internship and externship class. But the difference is whether you're actually taking the class or whether you're just getting the experience.
And do externships, are those, now because students are receiving credit, can they be still paid for those or no?
Well, the ABA just changed their rules.
Okay.
And you can actually get paid and receive credit for internships and externships if they are with a government agency.
Okay.
If you are working for a firm and getting credit, you cannot be paid.
Okay.
So the difference is public versus private sector.
Okay. And how does a student get one of these opportunities, or how do they decide what's best for them, internship or externship?
Well, so Widener has a practical component, and you have to have you have to get 6 credits of experiential learning. And so 6 credits sometimes is not enough. I think you can actually get up to 8.
Okay.
So sometimes students will do an externship as part of their calendar, their regular academic calendar, but they also want to do internships just to get the experience. And so it's just a question of what the student is looking for, whether they're looking to fill their schedule or whether they're looking for the experience.
Now, our school has the affiliation with the Central Pennsylvania Law Clinics. Would that be... could they use that as part of their experiential learning credit?
That's my understanding,
Are
yes.
they able to do that? Okay.
Yep.
And now, are they during the school year or are they during the summer? Does it matter? Is like externship during the summer only or internships during the summer only?
Yeah, no, they all can be throughout the year.
Okay.
So we have students who are interns now. We have students who are externs now. That can happen fall, spring, or summer.
Okay. And do we maintain a list of... can they go into a database and look at these? Do they meet with you and say, I'm looking for something, this is what I really want some experience in? I would assume that there's different areas of law that they can maybe choose from.
Yeah, so I think that I'm going to go with answer D, all of the above.
Okay.
We are using Simplicity as our database for all of our jobs. So anytime we have an employer call us or email us or send us a posting, it gets immediately uploaded to Simplicity, and students have access to it immediately. We also are counseling the students on a regular basis. So if we have students who come to us and say, when I graduate from school, I really want to be a family law attorney. So we try to counsel them in ways in which they can network with the family law legal community, as well as getting potential internships or externships with family law practitioners.
Okay. And now in a previous podcast, we talked a little bit about resume building. So I would assume that to be eligible and to kind of like, quote, put your name in the hat for one of these, you would need to have a well-developed resume for these opportunities.
Yes. So students should upload their resumes to Simplicity, because when we have a job posting that we put up on Simplicity, we actually will send the resumes via Simplicity to those employers. So what happens is a student will upload their revised resume, a cover letter, and transcript and or a writing sample directly into Simplicity. And if there's an internship or an externship opportunity that they're interested in, that's posted on Simplicity, all they have to do is click the buttons and check which documents they want to attach, and that that immediately just sends that packet to the employer for review. So it's really important to have your resume revised on a regular basis so we can actually upload that, have that living in simplicity, and it makes it really easy to apply for these positions.
Excellent. What does a student do during an internship or an externship? Do they have different duties, internship versus externship, or is it based upon the position that maybe that firm or organization is hiring for?
So with the externship, there are certain things that the employers are required to teach you or allow you to do, and that's mandated by the American Bar Association. And our externship coordinator, Liz Simcox, is regularly communicating with the employers about those types of skills that the law students need to gain while doing those externships. As far as internships go, it depends on the job, and every employer requires their interns to do different things, and that could vary on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. We have some employers who offer internships. I mean, for example, we work with the PA Senate, and we work with the Legislative Council on hiring our students as interns and externs. And when you work in the Pennsylvania State Senate, you may be working for a particular senator, and he may be having you reaching out to constituents, or maybe writing legislation, or maybe networking with the Legislative Council for the other senators to try to get them, it's more of a political internship. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things. If you work for a firm, you may be researching and drafting motions. You may be depending whether you're a certified legal intern or not, whether you may be appearing in court. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different skills that students will gain, and it really is just dependent on which type of position they get.
What is the typical length for one of these? Like, is it 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or can it be an entire year? Is that very individualized? It's very individualized.
So internships generally last a semester or a summer, but a lot of times employers will allow you to continue on. We actually have an employer right now who is giving us some positions that require a 2-year commitment. So, wow. Those types of jobs tend to lead to permanent positions, mm-hmm. which is great. However, every job, every position is different, and you need to make sure that you look at the requirements when you are trying to get an interview with that employer.
And when you say a student goes into an internship, and then the internship ends, maybe it's over a summer, do you find that sometimes those students will maybe go back to that same type of internship the next summer? Are they asked back, or do they reapply for something like that? Does that happen fairly often?
I would say it's about 50-50. We have students who will go back to the same employer year after year, and that's okay because that may be the type of job that they want to do. And mm-hmm. so getting more experience in that particular office or with that particular firm is going to be really important to them. However, we have students who aren't really sure what they want to do. So they'll do an internship for a summer, and then they will reapply for a different internship the following semester or the following summer. It just depends on the employer, and it depends on the situation.
Okay. And how can the CDO office help with these opportunities? When you meet with a student, do you sit them down, and if they come to you and say, hey, I'm looking for an internship or an externship or both throughout my career, how do you help them with that?
Yeah, so we talk to them about what it is they want to do and what their long-term career goals are, and frankly, what their short-term career goals are. And we try to help them network with the right type of people. And, frankly, we have to teach people how to ask for these things. So, there's a lot of firms in town that may not necessarily have a formalized summer program. So we need to get these students in front of them and be able to say, how can we help you? There are Central Pennsylvania has a lot of great firms, a lot of great organizations, and a lot of great government offices that are always looking for law students. So if we can get a sense of what a student is looking for, we can help them network. We also will try to reach out to other areas within the geographical area where a student wants to be. We've done some reach outs to some executive directors of other county bar associations to try to get a handle on their local legal community and find out what resources are available to our students.
Okay. And now, is it part of your role as director to kind of find some of those opportunities? Because I can't imagine that all the firms come running to the different, to the law school and say, hey, we have an opportunity here. Is your role to kind of sometimes find some of those along the way?
What our role is to help the students understand how to best utilizes the resources that are available to them in those areas. So because of the number of students that we have, we can't necessarily be calling, 20 firms in a specific area that may not be here in central Pennsylvania, that may be sort of as a one-off. But what I can do is I can reach out to some of our alums and our other connections in those geographical areas and ask them what resources they would recommend. I also help students sit down and think about how they can network. If a student is from, for example, let's say Lackawanna County, who the connections are that they've had, who the connections are that they've made, who the people that they know, who those connections are of the people that they know, who they can put them in touch with. We also try to utilize our alums in those areas and touch base with them and see who they can put our students in touch with.
Okay. Well, as you know, at the end of each podcast, I like to ask a fun question. So, who inspired you to be a lawyer?
So growing up, my grandmother always said to me, she would say to me like on a monthly basis, you should be a lawyer because you like fighting with your sisters. So, as I was growing up, I always thought, I'm going to be a lawyer. So it was just this natural progression to go into law school.
You still like to argue with your sisters?
Occasionally. No, we get along. But, I'm glad that I went to law school. It not only has taught me to argue with my sisters better, but it's taught me to think in ways in which, my sisters who are not lawyers don't know how to think. So, it was my grandmother who I owe this all to.
That's awesome. Well, Eden, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in.
Widener University Commonwealth Law School is the Pennsylvania capital's only law school, with 3 specialized centers of legal scholarship through its Law and Government Institute, Environmental Law and Sustainability Center, and Business Advising Program. Widener Law Commonwealth offers an exceptional learning experience that is personal, practical, and professional. Visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu for more information.